before we go tonight, I want to talk about what they were hyping up throughout the course of the pay-per-view and on the network, which is Undertaker: The Last Ride. It is a 5-part WWE Network docu-series offering a peek behind the curtain, not peek, a full-on look behind the curtain of the Undertaker's career over the last few years. First episode, Chapter 1, was today on the WWE Network. Very well done. Right out of the gate, though, before we go into what was shown, which was really good stuff, the timing of it to me is, I understand everybody's looking for content and they want to capitalize on the sort of the success of the ESPN Last Dance docu-series as well. But one of the things that I walk away from these things and the Broken Skull sessions and all these things you've heard about The Undertaker year over year over year is his desire to not break character, his desire to sort of, always keep kayfabe alive and all that jazz. So now he's done that for years and years, and you're going to release this before he's officially retired. It's just, after all that effort, it just is kind of blowing it up in a certain sense to me. And I know it won't make a big deal difference to a lot of people, but I was just sort of struck by that because he has really gone to extraordinary lengths to keep his character intact and everything, and I love getting the real look at it and everything. But I would have preferred this to be released sort of in conjunction with the announcement of his retirement kind of deal, and we haven't gotten that. So that was just something that struck me. But again, super amount of respect, again, to those lengths that he has gone to over a very long career to always stay in character and everything like that. Very cool stuff. But overall, what did you think of Chapter 1 of The Last Ride?
Well, okay, so my thinking was, after watching this first chapter, it makes you wonder, back in 2017 at that WrestleMania 33 match, like, it makes you wonder if that really was supposed to be his last match for WWE. Because it started out in the beginnings, like here we are, I think a couple days before WrestleMania, and it says Undertaker 3 days ago asked Vince McMahon that it's okay to have a camera crew to follow him around. So I wonder, even back then, 3 years ago, he anticipated that was going to be his last match. So he probably thought, you know what? Let's go ahead. This is probably going to be my last one. Let's have a camera crew document this. Like,
I think
I owe it to WWE. Let them document this period for them.
I think there's no doubt about it that he thought it was going to be, Vince thought it was going to be, I think everybody did. Because you go back to one of the things that, if you can be critical of how that was handled, is that in the wake of that, Undertaker left his, hat and everything in the ring, and WWE started putting out all the Thank You Taker merch and all this stuff. Like, his career was done, and I sort of made my peace with that, and then not so fast. It's not done, and so I think there was definitely an anticipation that was going to be his last match, very much so, passing the torch to Roman Reigns kind of deal.
Yeah,
good stuff all the way around. I really did enjoy, so much of the backstage stuff, and I think one of the most sort of jarring things was after his WrestleMania 30 match with Brock, and you got to see Vince be like, "We need some help back here."
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I mean, they have so much footage, I'm sure, of so many different superstars and moments that we have not seen. It's just, it's crazy just how many cool moments that we got to see just in this one episode. Like Triple H coming up to Undertaker before his match at WrestleMania 31 and telling him to remember who he is and sort of helping with his confidence, which, and looking at Triple H, that's sort of he's been that role for a number of guys, with Ric Flair and Undertaker, and just been sort of a babyface turn for Hunter in terms of how he's interacted with some of the veterans and everything like that. So that was a lot of cool footage that we got to see just in this first episode alone. In an episode that was very much so just a build-up to what we're going to see. This was very much so just a sort of a long intro in a lot of different respects. And I can't wait for the next one because even when they teased it, he's talking about how much he hated that match with Roman Reigns. And I remember watching that and being like, wow, that was bad. And, he talks about not wanting to go out as sort of a shell of himself. That was it right there. So in that sense, I'm glad he came back and had his own redemption story. Not that he needed to be redeemed, but he wanted to go out better than that match, and I'm glad he's at least got to do that up to this point.
Well, and that's the thing also, you think about like these documentaries. I think people involved who make them, I think starting out they have one idea or one narrative they want to follow, but then as time goes on and they collect all the footage, they realize once they start editing this, it's like, oh, it's actually maybe a different story that we can create out of this. And so that's what I'm saying is I think the original purpose of those camera crews and everyone involved, I think Undertaker probably thought, you know what? WrestleMania 33, this is gonna be my last match. I want to document this. Called Vince, it's okay. You can follow me around, have your camera crew follow me. I maybe he wasn't flat out telling everyone, but maybe deep down he was starting to feel like it was gonna be his last match. And so I think the original footage that they got that weekend was supposed to be for his retirement match. Sure enough, the match happened, as you just said, it wasn't that great.
It was awful.
Yeah, Undertaker had time to rest, heal up, and then we got the teaser for next week's episode. He watched the match back, and he's like, no, I don't want to go out like that. And we've seen in recent interviews with Stone Cold and stuff, like, if he has a bad match, he doesn't want to be remembered for that. He wants to go back and redeem himself. So, like, with the Roman match, even Goldberg in Saudi Arabia, he has occasionally these bad matches. He doesn't want that to be the final memory of him. So
Can I just say that Goldberg match with Saudi Arabia is not as bad as everybody says it is.
Well, yeah, I'm curious how they'll tackle that on this document. I'm sure they'll get into it. But that's what I'm saying is, like, I think initially it was just to cover just that final WrestleMania weekend for him. But then after that match, he's like, no, I'm not done. Like, I want another chance to prove myself and go out on a higher note. And then this documentary then turned into, the redemption story. And then here we are. It's been a few years. So I'm sure they're going to tackle WrestleMania in New Orleans, WrestleMania in New York, the Boneyard match. So I think the original plan was just cover, was that Orlando at 33? And now they've probably been following him these last few WrestleManias. So now that's why it turned into like a 5-part episode. It literally could have just been one episode covering if that really was his last match. So I think, like I said, the initial plan was just to cover his retirement. The fact that it was a stinker is now evolved into a few years of capturing him or following him around the last few years and turned into this more in-depth documentary just about him at this latter part of his career. But I kind of laughed when Chris Jericho were talking, and it said former WWE superstar Chris Jericho. But Chris Jericho even said in his little interview part there, he says he was shocked to see a camera crew following Undertaker. He said, like, Undertaker does not do podcasts, interviews, all this stuff. So when he saw a camera crew following him, he was like, that must be a sign this might be his last match.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I meant at the top in terms of, like, he has gone to such lengths to protect himself and protect that character, which it's the greatest gimmick in the history of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And he has done everything in his power to protect it and keep the integrity of it alive. It's just interesting to see them doing this now before he's fully retired and everything like that. And I get it, but it's just like, gosh, and I completely that would have tripped me out too if I were Chris. Be like, wait, we have camera crews following him. He's taking on the face of the company. I'm sure at that point he probably knew it was going on last at that point too. So it's like, yeah, okay. So this is I'm sure that was the plan going in. Again, right down to the leaving the gear in the ring and all the shirts that they had ready to roll out the next day. That it was the plan for that to be his last match, but didn't go that way. And
what was it after? It was Cena in New Orleans, and then what was New York? I'm trying to remember. Or no, he didn't actually wrestle in New York at WrestleMania. Or
no,
he came out the next night at Raw.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's right. And then this year with the Boneyard. Okay, I was trying to remember. So I'm sure they'll probably get into all of that. Like maybe, he missed the WrestleMania last year and all that. But I was just going to say also, it was, I enjoyed just seeing him, be Mark and just talk to all the superstars, past and present, like, talking to Jimmy Hart and Jim Cornette at one scene in the hotel. I laughed at, he was trying to check in the hotel and Roman Reigns comes up and he's like, hey, you couldn't wait like 10 minutes to keep kayfabe alive. Like,
exactly.
We're facing each other this weekend, and here we are, shooting the S at the check-in table or counter. It's like, can you not wait like 10 minutes? We can't be seen together. So I loved like just seeing him to this day have that old school kayfabe mentality. But like I said, I just really enjoyed seeing him walk. Every time he walked in the room, everyone would go up, say hi to him, like him talking to Kurt Angle and all the other superstars. I guess the Hall of Fame ceremony that was for that weekend.
It was very cool.
I just love seeing that. And that's, listen, I know there's an ongoing debate now. Is kayfabe dead and all that? And then these documentaries don't help as far as keeping it alive, because you see them talk to each other, people who supposedly hate each other or have a match that weekend, hanging out, talking to it. Like you saw him and Roman talking to his wife at the table, and they were just, and Roman's like, I love having these moments talking with him, even though they're facing each other. But what I'm getting at is, as much as I would love to see kayfabe still be a strong thing to this day, at the same time, I do love seeing them being just humans and talking to each other. And it's like, it gives me more reason to why I love them and support them. It's just, they are cool, down to earth people.
Well, I think there's a way of doing it to where you can have at least, look, they've pulled back the curtain so much, now that you can't put that genie back in the bottle, so to speak.
Yeah.
To mix metaphors, as it were. But a documentary like this is certainly for the diehard fan. And the diehard fan absolutely knows what's going on and everything like that. Mm-hmm. Where you can be better is not have Triple H in his build to his match with Batista refer to the 16-time world champion Ric Flair as Richard Fleer, or having AJ Styles refer to The Undertaker as Mark, something that, to my knowledge, had really never been done before on WWE television in terms of like Raw and SmackDown. I didn't like that. So I mean, you can on the on-screen presentation of your weekly television shows, I think you can still keep it alive, and it's just like how I feel about the Marvel movies. If they're not going to take it seriously, why should we? So that's kind of where I come down on that. But for a docuseries like this, it's for the very ensconced fan. And so I think for something like this, it's a special look at his career, which is, obviously winding down. I mean, maybe he did have his last match. I don't know. But it was very, very sort of informative to his mindset. And, it was very, very well done. And I am looking forward very much so to the future installments of the series. So and we're just getting started. Again, this was just a very much so a long intro.
Just to hear Undertaker talk just normal, it's still trippy just to hear more of that southern draw in his voice, and just hear about him and Michelle, just kind of more of their relationship and how close they are.
Where's Sarah? That's what I want to know. What happened to Sarah?
I don't know. It was just funny, like their interaction I enjoyed. But I was gonna say, the relationship with Vince, you kind of see parts of that here.
Yes.
Even after the WrestleMania 33, he comes in and he gives him a hug and says thank you, and he says, "Were you okay with it?" And he's like, "Yeah, it was great." And he walks in, he's like, "All right, thanks, boss," or "See you, boss man," or whatever. I'm paraphrasing. So even to this day, Undertaker refers to Vince as the boss, and it's just their relationship. But and yeah, you touched on it a second ago, was in New Orleans, WrestleMania 30, Michelle said, the SUV that came pulling up after the ambulance, it was with Vince and Brock. I was shocked. I mean, I'm not shocked about Vince, but Brock would go as well, leave WrestleMania before it's done and go check on Undertaker. So this shows Vince, I guess, how much he cares and loves.
I loved all the Vince parts, and Brock and Undertaker have a very special relationship as well. I thought all the Vince parts were, to the surprise of probably no one listening to the show, my favorite parts of the show. But I also just love, and this goes back to the Broken Skull session with Stone Cold, and we'll end with this. Yeah. I love hearing Undertaker talk about in-ring psychology, and less is more at the start with his character and stuff like that. It's just it is a master class just listening to him talk wrestling. So I'm looking forward to hearing more of that and more of his insight. This was Chapter 1. We will break down each chapter as they come out. But that will do it for this episode as we broke down Money in the Bank and Undertaker, The Last Ride. That is going to do it for us. For Baby Huey, I'm Bimbo Jimbo. And remember, if you're not in the Kliq, see ya. And I wouldn't want to be ya.
Good job, Jimbo. Much better energy this week.
Yeah, I hope I had good energy from my mom. I'll hear about it if I don't.